you believe in fairy tales? I do. Let me tell you a real-life fairy tale story that I know. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful princess, and she wanted to go for a flight high, high up in the sky. There was also a very handsome prince, and he wanted to go for a flight high in the sky too. So the princess and the prince came to the park where the big green dragon lived, and they asked him if they could have a flight high, high up in the sky. He said okay, but if they both wanted to fly, that they would have to fly on his back together. So they agreed and both hopped on the dragon's back together. They got ready for their flight high up in the sky. Just like they wanted, the dragon flew them very high. He flew them over buildings, and he flew them over mountains. He even flew them over the clouds. While they were flying, the princess and the prince started talking. They talked about all sorts of things. The princess told the prince that she likes to read books in her library, and the prince told the princess that he really likes to work with computers. They had such a great time on their flight. They loved getting to know each other, but they were worried what would happen when the flight ended. Their flight finally came to a stop, but they were not done talking. They shared story after story of things that they had done. The prince was very smart and super funny too. He had the princess laughing all day. The princess really liked the prince. The princess was very pretty, and she was just so nice. The prince really liked the princess too. They agreed to meet the very next day to continue talking. From that point on, they were inseparable. The princess and the prince did everything together. They went to the movies together, they went to dinner together, they even went to the big winter ball together. At the winter ball, the prince sang songs for the princess and told her just how much he really loved her. The prince asked the princess to marry him. Of course, the princess said, "Yes, of course, I'll marry you." And they got married, and they lived happily ever after. But wait, here's the catch. The princess wasn't really a princess after all. She was just an ordinary park ranger. And the prince wasn't really a prince after all. He was an ordinary repairman. Even though they're not a princess and a prince, their love story is a real fairy tale. Even ordinary people are allowed to have fairy tales. What's your fairy tale story?